I purchased this router bit to help me approximate the profile that's on this door, and unfortunately I had to get it with a 1/2 inch shaft. My router has a collet on it that's a 1/4 inch DW625. It's old, but it's a pretty high power, heavy duty plunge router. And it came with this collet, and I seem to remember it came with 2 collets, and I lost track of the 1/2 inch collet because pretty much everything I do is 1/4 inch. So I went to the DeWalt website, and when I punched in DW625, it came up empty. So thanks a lot, DeWalt. I went out onto Amazon and I looked for collets, and this one came up. It didn't say that it fit the DW625 in the description, but somebody asked a question further down. It said, will this fit the DW625? And somebody answered yes. So I purchased it, and it does not fit. There's the 1/4 inch collet. I got the new parts, and the new parts look the same. Snap that in, and it seems to fit. Excellent. For the record, I ordered it from these guys, and she fits. So we're ready to move on to the next step. And these collets in a pill bottle, and hopefully I won't lose this one. I want to mount this plate to the router, and this guy comes out, and I can visually center this ring on the orange ring in the router plate and visually center that on it, which I think will get me close enough. When I built this router station, I purchased this router used, and I mounted on this 1/4 inch thick piece of plexiglass. And to bring it up to level, I have 8 of these screws sitting, one in each corner and one in the middle of each side, to bring the plate to the proper level. By taking the screws out, this will sit down low enough to still work. And this plate's a little bit thicker. This is actually closer to 5/16 or so. I marked the holes for the DeWalt router. I am going to have to get some screws for it. I don't know if anybody has a better way to do this, but what I'm doing is I'm sighting right down, with my eyes right above it. I'm at sort of the zenith of this plate, and I'm centering the steel plate from the router over the orange ring that's the center of this plastic plate, and then I'm centering this DeWalt plastic plate that attaches to the router around the steel ring, and then I'm just visually looking at the dimples I made with the awl to make sure that they're centered in the 6 holes. And it looks pretty good from here, and I figure the more accurate you get it now, the better off you'll just be in the long run. I found that these 2 screws were binding the most, and I've just had to fiddle with these 2 holes to get all 6 of them to seat properly. So this router bit, by coincidence, just kisses the inside of this orange circle, and I did my best to visually center it because it's only touching at 2 spots, so there's still a little wiggle room, and I can get all 5 of the screws in without any binding, so that's good. And it looks as though the router bit is reasonably well centered, certainly good enough for what I need to do. Well, and here is a quick view of the router mounted to the base. So I routed the 2 profiles back to back, and then split them apart. The idea that's going to butt up against the 1x stock, the stiles and the rails, and it's going to add that profile, and the flat panel will sit in here, sort of approximating. If I hold those up, kind of get an idea. When I was routing the profile, I wasn't getting as good results as I could. I discovered that there was a lip over here on the table of the router table. This got wet over here, and it had swollen. And the easiest way to make it level was to just knock it down with some chisels and a hand plane. And then I discovered that the auxiliary fence on this side was sitting a little shallow, compared to the plane of the whole fence. So I laminated some blue tape behind it so that as I was running this across, it stayed planar. So that this auxiliary fence is planar to this auxiliary fence. And then a couple more light passes, and it cleaned it up quite a bit. Well, this project came out really well, and I think I'm going to leave this router mounted to this plate. Sure, it's going to be a pretty good addition to the shop. Well, spoiler alert, this project was a huge success, and here's a quick view of the doors after they've been primed. They came out great, and that's going to be the topic of another video, so stay tuned for that. As always, appreciate you coming by, seeing what I'm up to. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, you know I love to read them, and stay tuned for the next one.